Welcome to Crush Your Money Goals, where we dive deep into all things money as your 2 millionaire mentors. I'm Bernadette Joy.
And I'm Stefanie Gonzalez. This season, we're shifting gears and focusing on something that affects us all, quitting with confidence.
From financial habits to career transitions, we're here to guide you through the journey of taking charge of your finances and pursuing your dreams fearlessly.
Tune in every week as we share tips, stories, and expert insights to help you crush your money goals and embrace change with open arms. Welcome to Season 7, Quit with Conviction.
I am so excited for another episode. Welcome back, y'all. We have one of our favorite badass women. I don't even think I feel like that's an understatement for this lady that we're about to have. We actually met for the first time in person in FinCon a couple of years ago. And she was so kind. I still remember that when I was speaking, I was hella nervous that she was cheering me on, and I was so grateful for that. And then I have been, and she doesn't know this, but I've been following her journey for quite a long time as well. And I've been a fan of her for a long time, but I was secretly fangirling when we first met. I was trying to be cool. And so I'm so glad to have Mandy here on the podcast. So hello, Mandy, introduce yourself.
Hey, Bernadette. I just want to call you B. Can I just call you B and stuff? Can we just be friends? Let's just skip past.
That's what I'm trying to get my kids to call her, Auntie B. And they were like, no, she's Bernadette, Mom.
Too cute. Although Bernadette is a baddie name. That's so sweet. And your talk, I think about it. I don't remember. I remember the acronym. You had one of those, and I remember it was a very inspirational and practically good advice talk. But the thing that I remember is the vibe and the badassery and I was so blown away by your poise, but not poise, oh, I'm doing a talk, but just I know that it was very nerve wracking. I imagine it was, but, yeah, you just crushed it. I literally had to stand up and cheer because it was so dang good.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's
and what an introduction to you, because I would think that was my first time seeing you in your power. So amazing.
Thank you. And so I would love for the audience who doesn't know who you are to give just a kind of brief introduction of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I am Mandi Woodruff Santos. I had a long career in journalism. That's how I got into personal finance. I used to cover business and personal finance for a couple of outlets like Yahoo Finance and Business Insider. And then I sort of segued into marketing. And over the course of the past decade, sort of combining my journalism skills with marketing, had a really great long career in that space. And smack in the middle of that career, I launched my podcast, Brown Ambition, with my partner, Tiffany, the Budgetnista, Alice. And that podcast was sort of like this. This was my scratching my creative, my creative itch. so gross and creepy. Anyway, kind of, I was going to say, maybe I should say tickling my creative bone, but that also sounds creepy. So maybe I should just stop with the analogies and the metaphors. I'm a writer. Anyway, so Brown Ambition was my creative outlet throughout my career. And because I had pivoted into marketing, I wasn't able to sort of do the thing that I had been doing before, which was really speaking to a younger audience, largely women, about our finances and all that. So Brown Ambition became this outlet where I could talk about money and career. And just because I was the 9-to-5 girly of the two, Tiffany at the time had her own business and still does. So for the first 4 or 5 years of our podcast, I was just that 9-to-5 girl. I was always holding it down for the corporate girlies. And then when I, in 2021, had this come to Jesus kind of moment, which maybe we can talk about, I decided to sort of say goodbye to traditional corporate America, traditional, career, and take my podcast, focus on that, and then also launch my Mandy Moneymakers, which is a community of women of color. And I coach them in how to really thrive professionally and learn how to take control of their careers and not let their careers jerk them around. And it's been super rewarding. And I'm on year 3. Which is
wow.
What is time? I don't know.
I love that. And, that's specifically why we wanted you on the podcast, because of this very specific come to Jesus moment, which is, around the theme of what we have for this season, which is around quitting forward and quitting courageously. So could you share with us that come to Jesus moment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was sort of like the culmination of many of those moments. And it's like, I mean, you don't have to believe in Jesus to have one of them, but it was just a look in the mirror and choose a different thing, just sort of like I had gotten pretty good at that early in my career, just choosing something different from the thing that I was doing and fighting against that instinct to just stay where you know what tomorrow will look like. And I mean, that started for me when I quit my first sort of job after college. I was at a newspaper called the Gainesville Times in Georgia. And that was literally like what I went to school to do. So, and in the middle of the recession, I managed to get a newspaper job. And that was quite, that was like a huge accomplishment. But, when I got an opportunity to move to New York and work in magazines, it was my first time quitting and really like getting over that guilt and fighting that guilt. I can still feel how it felt to be in my dad's really junky Jimmy truck that like the window wouldn't stay up. It was the dead of winter in North Georgia. It was like snowing. My hands are freezing to the steering wheel. And I am just like racked with guilt over how am I going to turn in my 2 weeks notice 2 weeks after I started this job and kind of pushing through that fear. And, that launched my whole career in New York. So when you look at sort of like what happened next, I moved to New York. I took that job, Mary Tyler Moore moment. She's made it, all that, throw my hat in the air. And then I get almost immediately let go from that, magazine job. And I'm really proud because at the time, I didn't feel like shame. I felt sort of like excitement, almost like, oh, I get to start over again, start over fresh. Like this is okay. And also, oh, companies will just discard you like yesterday's garbage, no matter how good you are at whatever you're doing. And so 10 years after that moment, I was at this point where I was really up against a corporate environment that was hostile to who I was at the same time as they were telling me that that's what they wanted. And I think any woman of color can sort of understand that feeling where we want you to like be yourself, but oh wait, not like that. And what I realize now, I've had several years to reflect on it. And I realized that like I was too entrepreneurial for that environment. I was too used to calling the shots on my podcast. I was too used. I had come from working at a startup, which was then acquired, and really having control over my team and like sort of having a level of autonomy that I craved and need. If I'm going to survive in corporate. And when I didn't have that anymore, very quickly, it's like, oh, this is not right. So we're going to have to be okay with walking away. And that was another job that was like, looked amazing. And it was like for a huge brand. And I had, left behind my stable, job at the time to like have this new era in my career. And I was telling myself, oh, you need this. You need to work for this big brand because if you're ever going to go out on your own, you need to have some credibility. And this brand is going to lend you their credibility of all that. And it was all bullshit because I ended up leaving just a few months into that role and launching my business. And I didn't need that credit. I had credibility because I had that career that I just talked about. And I had the podcast, which I had started all the way back in 2015. So for me, it wasn't like a snap and I'm going to do this kind of moment. It was more of like I don't see any other path where I'm going to be happy. The only way forward for me is to lean into this, like, you own your shit and you deserve to try this. Like, you deserve to try and launch your own thing and kind of bet on yourself.
I remember listening back in 2021. I just had Oliver. So I'm walking the stroller, like right after having a baby and like trying to get my body back, all that good stuff. And I'm listening to Brown Ambition podcast. I'm listening to Yo Quiero Dinero, Journey to Launch. And I remember this was the phase where you had left and you were going to start feeling out the next steps in building Mandy Money Makers. And you were interviewing or coaching 100 people, right? You like had all these people sign up.
Oh yeah. I did free coaching sessions.
Yeah. You did free coaching.
Yeah. That was crazy.
In that work, what were some of like the main things that you heard from women that were fears or doubts holding them back from taking the next steps that they wanted to take?
Oh man, so much of the same that I'm hearing today, but the same things I'm hearing today. I had sent an email out to my list not long ago, and I always kind of end my emails with a prompt for them to respond to me. And I'm always like amazed when they take the time to send me an email because I read every single one and I'll respond. And there's so much of the same. And I was like, what's your biggest career challenge right now? And it's like the fear around making a change, the pivot. And so many of us, I think traditionally, like when you talk about like the challenges of changing jobs or getting a new job, it's all about like the application, the resume, but the mental side of it, like the mindset that you need to feel safe and stable within your own, like within yourself, to be able to take that leap is a lot of what I spend the most time coaching women through, to trust yourself and to trust that you got yourself. We've just been conditioned to really look for that security and safety from corporations. And it's like we're setting ourselves up to be disappointed, brokenhearted, all of that, because at the end of the day, businesses are going to business, and us and our dreams and our talents are disposable. We really are. So back when I did those free coaching sessions, no, I no longer do them. That was really my way of saying, like, I think I want to try this thing. Am I even good at it? I didn't know
I think it's
about.
great that you did that. I think it's great that you did that.
Yeah, it was the best. I mean, I really did that before I did anything else. I was like, it was my way as a journalist of getting the pulse of what my audience that I wanted to help was going through. And so those phone calls, I really cherished them. And the fact that I negotiated the hell out of my exit package from that company, that I financially could take the time to take my time. Like I could do some free coaching sessions and still get my bills paid and all of that. I don't want to underestimate the power of having a financial nest egg so that you can bet on yourself. And that was really the culmination of my 10 years of, talking about personal finance and really just like walking the talk, walking the walk, whatever. Doing what I talked about. I need to stop with these metaphors. They're just not working in my brain right now.
No, I like it. Keep going. Keep going. I like to see
what
where
I
they
would
go.
have said. So
Yeah. So yeah, and it really was such a beautiful, like, it wasn't the end of a journey at all, but over, at the beginning of my career, I got let go with no money and I was broke and I was fighting with the Department of Labor over my unemployment benefits. And I was like petrified. When you look at that 10 years later, when I'm at the same sort of crossroads a little bit, it's not quite the same, but similar. But then to be able to say, even without that exit package, to still have enough to not panic and to not have to take the next thing out of desperation. That's what I'm obsessed with helping others achieve. It's just like a lot of, the fear around quitting and moving on is like, well, who's gonna, like, I'm so addicted to this like paycheck lifestyle, like this, and we spend what we make and all of that, but you can create a different situation for yourself so you can make choices, that are in your best interest because you can, not because you feel like you have to do it to get a paycheck.
Attention ladies, want to be a debt-free millionaire? I'm your co-host Stephanie, and I'm here to help you activate your hard-earned income and achieve financial independence. For being a Crush Your Money Goals listener, I invite you to book your free personal one-on-one consultation with me today and get started on your wealth building journey. Visit www.womenswealtheffect.com/free. That's www.womenswealtheffect.com/free and take control of your financial future. Don't wait. How is your life? Your mommy, you welcomed a second one after doing this pivot.
I know.
As well. How has it changed for you, whether it's like what your days look like, how you think about things, this time freedom, but also this business you're trying to build?
So my day to day is I've really embraced the ability to be, a business owner, but then also be really available to my children. And at times I resist it. Like I went to the grocery store twice this morning and I had to take my son's coat back to school because he forgot it. And I really didn't get in the house, sit down and ready to like think for myself until about 11 a.m., which is a late start to the day. But I start to then think about like what a privilege it is to be able to do that. Like my mom never could. The ways that I have a business, the ways that I make money today just really didn't exist back then. And, and the fact that I have been able to keep it up and no one's come and yanked me out of this joint for the past couple of years, no matter what happens tomorrow, if the business is gone and I got to go back to corporate, it's not for me, it's not a failure. It's just like, that's what it is. But I'll always sort of, I think, look back on these years and really cherish my presence with my littles. At the same time, it's been really hard to fight. I feel like I do have to fight for my time for the business, for the book that I'm writing. I didn't even mention that I'm working on a book. Allegedly, I haven't written anything in a long time. Like it's gonna happen, I guess. I signed a contract, so yeah, I'll do it. But fighting for that precious time to just focus on me, that has been, especially since having the second baby, that has been my biggest challenge. And I just had an epiphany not that long ago. You guys want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it'll actually be as impressive as that word, epiphany, but I was arguing so much with my husband about the fact that I spent so much of my day doing like mom stuff and household stuff and
clothes and all the things,
laundry and cleaning and cooking and all that. Cause he commutes, he has a traditional job in the city. So he commutes, he has a hellish commute. It sucks for him. And when he comes home, he doesn't want to, do anything. And I get that, but I'm like, wait, so like, who's going to do it? Cause if I'm not doing it and you're not doing it. And I kind of had this epiphany that I had to be in charge of my own, I had to make it happen for myself. I was sort of like expecting my husband to like roll out, to either like step in and give me the time that I needed or to like come up with a plan. And I'm just like, why am I not just making a plan for myself so that I can get the stuff that I need to get done? Mm-hmm. And, if that means, small stuff, like my son, I was picking him up at 4 p.m. every day from pre-K. I was like, let's pay a little extra so he can stay after care until 5:30. My husband
hour makes a difference. Oh, such a difference.
It's usually a nap hour, but it makes a huge difference. I'm not gonna lie, but I use it well. And then putting my baby into daycare, which is so fucking expensive. I can't tell you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then just really, creating a schedule for the house so that I feel like everyone's needs are met. But I can spend all day at the library, if I need to, or take a long meeting or whatever, if I need to, or go into the city. And it's taken a little bit longer. I'm not going to judge myself too harshly, but like it took me a long time to kind of get to the space of, oh, you can actually take back your time and force, create these other support so that you can focus on what you got to do.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you're just giving yourself that grace, because we don't realize that we've also been conditioned essentially to have someone else tell us like, okay, this is where you're supposed to be that day or whatever. And then what I also think is interesting is, I don't have kids, so I always find this really interesting, is just that for all of my fellow female entrepreneurs who do have kids or whatever, like even though you're running a business, like you're still, and a lot of times, expected to be the primary parent, even if you're sharing duties and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious for you of, with that transition to that entrepreneurship with your partner, like what conversations had to be had to be able to facilitate this transition?
Oh no. Just last night though, we were like picking up the living room and we're in that like haze of, we don't want to talk to each other. We just want to like get this done so we can go to bed and not feel like complete slobs. Anyway, and then he just like, I had my headphones in too. I was listening to an audiobook and then I hear him talk. I'm like, what did you say? And he said, so what's going on with our taxes? And I was just like, don't ask me such a mean question right now. Like, why are you being so mean?
This is not the time, sir.
Yeah, because it's like not at the end of the day when you're in that kind of like exhaustion. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so a lot of the tax stuff is up to me because of like the business that I have. So He has less of I need to do better about that. Like he has less of a line of sight into our taxes. They're just not easy like they used to be. We used to take our W-2s and we mail them to or email them to our accountant, Paul, and Paul would do whatever. And we would get some money back sometimes. That was fun. It's not fun like that anymore. And he's really struggling to understand, like, why do we keep owing taxes? And I'm like, well, I'm figuring my shit out, but it's all estimated. When you're an entrepreneur, you don't know how much you're going to make exactly. So blah, blah, blah. So that has been kind of, it's our third tax season, I think, with Mandy Money being its own thing. And I keep waiting for that moment when I'm like, oh, I have it all figured out. And nope, I still am like, can we get an extension? Cause like, I don't know. And also, did I save enough for this? Like, I don't know. So there's that ongoing conversation. I was the breadwinner before. I kind of hate that expression, but I just earned more before. And I had to keep earning more after, because in New York with 2 kids, it's really expensive. And on his salary alone, I couldn't do it. We couldn't do it and live this very small, not that exciting, expensive life, but still. So for me, I kept that going. And I think some of our biggest friction points is like, I'm trying to work on this in therapy, is because I've started to feel that level of anxiety around money that I didn't have before business. That's not such an unusual thing, right? It's more stressful because you don't know what you're going to make, all of that. But I still have to earn more than he does. And for me, there's been some friction over like, oh, this is my problem to figure out. And like, I'm the one who has got to just like make more. I'm the only one who can make more because my, income is to the moon. Like you can be infinity, right? So they say, whereas his is like, here's your salary. He's in the government. So it's like, here's your letter, here's your number, and this is how much you make. And, and not sharing that I'm anxious with him has really made me feel more isolated. So that's one of the things that I'm working on, in therapy. I'm always working on myself and just trying to like share more of that with him. But when I do share those things, my first gut reaction is like to be defensive, like, oh, but I have it all figured out. Like, it's not because I'm bad at this. It's like, I have it figured out, but like, I'm just going to let you know. And I'm not really
just keeping you in the loop over here.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, what did you get married for if you just want to like not have a partner to help you think about things and like support you? So there's that I'm very much still in the middle of, and hopefully that wasn't like too raw and real, but
very raw and real, and exactly what I think a lot of people need to hear. So I'm so glad that you shared that, because I talk with a lot of, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because AJ and I have also had many a friction point about him being in a salary position and me being in this entrepreneurship thing. And we've been at it for like 7 years. So, and we still haven't quite figured it out. So you're doing pretty well for being 3 years in on it. And, one of the things that struck me about you and your platform, and I've been following all of the content you've been sharing with us, is around your ability to negotiate, not just like money, but negotiate what you need. That's the vibe that I get from your content. Like, yes, like a lot of your content is around negotiating around money, but it leads into so many of these other conversations that need to have discussion. But I'm so glad that you said that you are in therapy, that you're working through it. Like, just because we may see online that Mandy isn't a negotiation expert doesn't mean that she's like got it all figured out, right? So could you share more about...
Unfortunately, this side of me doesn't really get that much engagement. I've tried to post some raw, real shit. It's not, I'm like, the followers are dropping. People are not vibing with this. They want the Mandy money with the mojo. And like, there's sometimes when I just can't give that, I'm going through a rough time right now with my dad being sick in the hospital, all this stuff. And, if I'm going to share anything, because if there's one thing you're going to call me, it's going to be authentic, because I don't know how to show up in an inauthentic way. It's too exhausting.
It's too tiring.
I'm not an actress. Like, I do think that there are some content creators who have a persona, and they can turn it on and off. And like, when I am that version of like badass, like, yes, and feeling confident and all of that, that's a great place to be. But I don't think any of us real folks are in that space all the time and turning it on and off. Maybe I should be better at that, but no. not at all.
I think, I mean, as someone who watches the authentic content from both of you and gets feedback from other people about like, oh, no makeup. And like, I love it how that's what real women who want to really accept your content want to see.
Yeah,
I truly believe that.
No, you're right, Steph. And it's like, you have to sort of ask, well, who are you making this for? Every time I do a video or something, writing my book and all this, like, it's a constant like, internal dialogue is, remember who you're writing it for. What does she need to hear? What does she care about? And you're so right. And if we start performing for algorithms or, which are changing all the time, or certain platforms, like, you can get in your own way. And then I'm not actually, so much of my ability to launch my business was based in the fact that I was already sort of building relationships with my audience through Brown Ambition, before I even knew I was going to do anything. And I think that was, why definitely one of the reasons why when I went off to launch my business, I sort of already had people who would trust me enough to talk to me for half an hour, out of nowhere. Like, I can be a coach now. You want me to coach you? So I don't take that for granted. And yeah, it's like, okay, come back to who's your audience and, that woman that I'm always envisioning, helping. And through my business, I get to see her all the time. And that's got to be the North Star, or else you're in a very confusing space.
Start your freedom plan today with Crush Your Money Goals. You can transform your financial future with our personalized program. Join me, Bernadette Joy, your millionaire mentor, and unlock your potential. In just 90 days, build the skills to grow your wealth and secure your financial future. Your future is waiting. Enroll now at crushyourmoneygoals.com. I have to ask you this because like I said, I've been following your career for a while, and I consider you one of the OGs in this podcasting space. I remember us in FinCon, we went to that round table of women of color podcasters.
Yeah, that was so cool.
That was so cool.
That was, first of all, that was so cool because I think you were the one who said, like, a couple of years ago, like, it was me and like a handful of other people, if that, right? And so my question for you with this season being quitting, how have you not quit the podcast at this point? Like, and I say that like in the sense of just like, as someone who has not been consistent about podcasting myself, like, how have you been able to stay consistent for as long as you have?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because Tiffany and I have sort of been asking ourselves that question. Like, what is it about our show that we stuck with it for, is it going on 9 years this year? Or is it it's either 8 or 9. And I think here's what I think. I think that the reason we didn't quit is because we didn't really know what we were doing in the beginning. We didn't do smart stuff like you guys are doing, where you have seasons and you record in batches and like all this strategy. We just said like, hey, we want to do this show and we're going to show up once a week and record an episode. And we had the title and we had sort of like the vibe for the show and all of that. But the key, I think, is Tiffany and I were we weren't as close as we are today. Our friendship didn't exist then as it does now. Our friendship then was sort of similar to like, so you and Stefanie maybe, or me and you, if we launched a podcast together, that's sort of like where Tiffany and I were at, like liked each other, knew we had a good rapport. And I think because we weren't like sisters or like best friends, it was harder to like bail on each other in a weird way. Like,
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like, it's not like a girlfriend who I've known my whole, for years and years. And I'm just like, I don't want to go to brunch today. And we just cancel. And she's like, yeah, girl. We kind of held each other accountable in that way because we didn't want to let the other one down. So that was for sure one of the things I think that helped us stick with the show for so long. And now that we are at that level where it's like, girl, I don't want to record today. And you're just like, better get over here and record. Like, come on. Or, hey, I can't record today. Okay, I got you. I'll do it by myself, So we've definitely had those moments. So yeah, in the beginning, it was that business relationship it was a little more weighted than the friendship one. At the same time, I made it my business for the show to not fall off. So Tiffany was more of like the, and I've told her this and we'll like laugh about it, but she was more of like the fly by the seat of your pants, like the fun one who would show up and just like put some Tiffany sparkle on it and say funny stuff and bring the Riz, like
sing the song and do all this.
Yeah, that was Tiffany. And I was very much like the Hermione being like, okay, we need to be here and we're going to edit here and we need to do an intro. I was in that producerial role. And because of my background in journalism, I had a web series at the time and I had experience editing and editing video and all that. And I was learning a lot about like production. So that I think made me the fact that I could, someone has to be in the driver's seat as far as like producing the show, keep you on schedule, make sure that you are, delivering what you say you're going to deliver to your audience, booking guests. If you want to have guests. At the time we had no money. We didn't really spend a lot for the show, but we also weren't making any money. So it was, I was just really determined to sort of fill that role. And I loved it. I really liked being that. And I'm sure if I go back and listen to some of the earlier episodes, I would just be like, girl, like relax, we don't have to fact check everything. Like we get it. You're a journalist, like sit down, you're fine. It's a little like, I was really trying to be the I don't know, the other half of Tiffany's kind of silly and fun. So that's a lot of it. And we just ended up really loving it. And then years in, when the money started coming, then it was like, oh, this is nice. But it really wasn't until the last year when Tiffany and I started to like, I guess the past 2 years start to really reap the benefits like financially from the show and look at it like, oh, okay, I guess we did this thing. And it's been great. So now it's like we have such a good foundation of trust in each other, love for the show. The money gets to be sprinkles on top. And now we're doing it from a place of, oh, we just want to keep on doing this. It's great that we make money at it. What a fucking like gift, So
yeah. I keep thinking back to FinCon, probably when all three of us really met in person.
Yeah.
And asking you a similar question to this about what it's been like to build your podcast with Tiffany. And when Bernadette came to me last year going like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore, but you want to start yours. So do you want to do this together? Your comment about this is immediately where I went. Number one, Bernadette's amazing to speak with, right? And hang out with and like get a chance to do this with her every other couple weeks, for 13 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
But making the decision to move into another country, like you just become on your own island. Like how do you have other conversations with people who you enjoy and want to learn with and from? And so I encourage anyone who's listening who has someone that, if you have the time, of course, this is work. This is not like, hey, we recorded it and it's going out tomorrow. This is work. But if you really want to have deep conversations and an opportunity to document that and bring other people into it, this is a really cool way to do it.
And I think that Around Ambition is a really good model.
Example. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do it with very little planning, and it's just a joke, like whatever, but it's like a part of the secret sauce. I think we just sort of like show up and we are ourselves, and you grow up with us through the show. You see our relationship grow and blossom, and our lives have become so rich, and like the texture of our lives is just insane, and like the ups and downs. And I think that people buy into that relationship a lot, I think, between Tiff and I. And I think that's what we want to protect at the end of the day, is like this friendship that we have been able to create and trust in each other and all that. I love her so much. I feel like I'm definitely the Gayle King and she's the Oprah. I compare
I can see
that. And Gayle King is now in like her era where like she is such a big deal. We got a listener question this week. Yesterday we answered it, and it was like, we do Q&As on Fridays. Anyway, the listener started the question by saying like, hey, Mandy and Tiffany, I love you both, but this is a question for Mandy. And the way that happened with every question with Tiffany, but it wasn't even like, we love you and Mandy. It would just be like, hey, Tiffany, love your show. And, you know, obviously she had her business and she has such a big audience, whatever. But it's been really fun. And it's like, there's no competition. It's just like it's a real, it'd be stupid for us to try to compete because we know too much about each other. Like, I know you're not out there like really, you know, stunting like the way that people may think you are. Like, I know the real. And, but it's been really fun to just to grow alongside her and watch her journey. And she deserves every single flower that she has given, but now I get some too occasionally, and that's fun.
I love that for you. And I've always looked at, like you said, like I loved watching the blossoming of your relationship over the last couple years. Which concert did you guys go to recently? Was it Beyonce or was
together?
Right? It was Beyonce, right?
Can you see the bedazzled
her
cleavage?
VIP backstage
trying to flash
view of Beyonce? Yeah.
It wasn't backstage. It was in front of the stage. It was like,
it was backstage in my mind.
It was Club Renaissance. It was Club Renaissance. Okay. And peak moment other than having my child. He's great.
Oh.
But the way I left him at home and like put on a denim like two-piece and some sparkle and just like it was so fun. So fun.
It was so fun to watch you guys though. Like, you know, I think that I remember seeing that post and thinking that is the kind of business relationship I want to have. Like the person that I can be like a boss person in business with, and then also go to Beyonce and put on some sparkles.
Yeah.
With you. Like that's pretty great.
You guys hang out for 8 or 9 years and you too might be like getting low with it.
It'll have to be a K-pop concert to get Bernadette to get down as much as I think she would at a K-pop concert. So I'll have to call it there.
You know, you have your thing.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Well, so you know, and I'm going to say this is just because I want to make sure you get back to your day is there's lots of ways that people can engage with you. You've got Mandy Moneymakers, you've got Brand Ambition, and then you've got this upcoming book. What do you want to share with people about those things?
That you can go to mandymoney.com and it's Mandy with an I. And then if you want to watch the show or listen to Brown Ambition, I'd love that. If you guys love Bernadette and Steph, you'll probably dig Brown Ambition as well. And like Steph, you said you go on a walk and like go through your rotation of podcasts. Like I love that as well. So yeah, add us to your rotation. And if you want to follow me on IG, you can follow me at Mandy Money. That's my space. I never really got good at the whole like TikTok and IG at the same time. I just gave up on that. But elder millennials, we hang out on IG. So here I am.
Yeah.
Right there with you. I don't even have a TikTok account. So I love that. And I really do enjoy following all of your IG posts. I love seeing your mom's night in. I love seeing, and I love how honest you are about, you know, the things that are going on in your business. I was so pumped for you when I saw, you know, that you got that book deal. And so for those of you who are listening, if you want to see, you know, the kind of the ins and outs of what it's like to kind of grow up as an entrepreneur, I think your IG is such a great model for that. And absolutely, we'll leave the show notes for your newsletter. I'm a big fan of email nowadays as well. And I think that's a great way to connect with people. And you're like the fact that you will actually respond to those emails.
Or DM me. I respond to my DMs. I'm not going to do coaching sessions through DMs. Y'all are sneaky
Nor
about
should
that.
we. Nor should we.
I'm like, can you send this to the BAQA? Because this is anyway. But I tell me if I screw up something. I mean, my followers will do that sometimes, and I'll be like, "Oh, you're right. My bad," and I'll fix it.
Thanks.
Those are real followers, though. Those are true followers who will help you grow and also tell you when you're making a mistake. So I love that for you. So thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Crush Your Money Goals podcast.
Please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this podcast. Your feedback helps us spread the wealth of knowledge to more women like you.
And if you'd like to work with me to help you answer the important question, if I'm on track to retire, be sure to snag my free financial independence planner at womenswealtheffect.com/planner.
And if you'd like to work with me to kickstart your financial freedom plan, you can grab the Cha-Ching Checklist, my free guide at crushyourmoneygoals.com/free guide.
See you next time.